So, Jim, last time you sat up here, you'd IPO'd, you'd had your first year. How's life as a listed?
Well, it's getting more fun all the time. The first 2 years were pretty tough, but it's gotten a lot easier the last 6 months while the SEC's decided to take an extended vacation. Although it stopped everything, it slowed everything down. We're not able to close a lot of the deals we've got going on, but it's not overly difficult for me. And everybody says, "What's it like to go public, and how hard is it to do it?" It was massive work to get there, and I'm sure, fortunately, my CFO's not sitting in the room because he would tell me it's not near as much fun for him to do all the work that's required with it. And I get on the calls and do the earnings reports every quarter, I don't think all those many people really care about it. They want to see what the performance was, and nobody wants to listen to me talk that much. So I'll let you ask the questions.
So how is business?
It's incredible. We still have as many as 500 to 600 quote requests coming in the door a day, and so the business is the demand is not the issue. Still the ability to get your airplanes fixed, rapidly fixed, is the whole game. And if you can get them fixed at night, you can take advantage of that and deliver for your customers. But the demand is not any problem at all, and it's as strong now as it's ever been. I was just getting ready to give you a bunch of material, non-public information, but my earnings call is next week, so I can only tell you things through the second quarter.
Yeah, Wheels Up actually moved theirs for us, but you can do that next year.
Yeah, or we could get you to move it 10 days later, and then I'll be ready. But
going through your business, you've got take us through the ways you make money.
Well, that shouldn't take long. We've got a club program. The primary legs of the stool have historically been a club program, which is basically a card program, a fractional program, and then the wholesale customer base has been a hugely important part of our business and continues to be. And as we model the business going forward, in the future will continue to be a very important part of our business. So we're not getting out of that. We're spending a lot of our time and effort to develop the club and the fractional programs, but wholesale will still be really important. In the parts of the business that we really started almost for our own needs to control our own destiny with the vertical integration of paint and interior and our MRO maintenance business was about taking care of our planes and returning them to service and taking care of that maintenance, hopefully at night or as fast as we possibly could to deliver the planes back to service. Has worked well for us, and our utilization on the airplanes, even in the face of all the parts problems, I think is pretty industry leading. At this point, but what it has turned out to be is a really good part of the business. It's now becoming an important revenue stream for us. And so our paint facility is booked out 6+ months. We're doubling the capacity of that so we can bring it back and get planes done faster. But we were booked 6 months in advance in our paint business, our interior business the same. Our maintenance business is growing at over 100% per year, and no end in sight on that. And so these parts of the business that we started to take care of our own needs have become really important revenue drivers for us, and where we see a lot of opportunity for the business going forward.
So the fractional, I think you launched 3 years ago, and I think I worked out in the Q2, it's about 6% of your sales. It grew a lot, yeah, but it's still...
I think it's certainly it's around that,
yeah,
8 to 10% of total sales, and flight time is kind of how I'm looking at it. But
what do you want to get that to in 5 years?
I think I'd like the combination of fractional and club to be somewhere around 75% of the total business, 25% of it to be more in the wholesale broker business. And every time I say that, people start to think, hey, I'm gonna close the pie on the wholesale side of the business, and that's really not the intention. I want to grow the other side and keep the wholesale the same. Because it's a super important part of how we deliver efficiency and optimization and make money, is that the wholesale fills those gaps where we have availability that the committed demand of fractional and club and our partner business generates.
And the one other big story is you've been renewing the fleet, and you're getting out what I like to see you call non-performing aircraft.
Remember we talked, this is the non-profitable aircraft. Yes, we've largely accomplished that. We're down to the single digits of airplanes that are available or that are left in the fleet that we need to get rid of. And I think we largely will have those gone over the next 6 months or so. And so we're back into where we're growing the fleet. And what that transition has done for us, along with, we talked about last year, what this transformation or transformational year has been for us. But we operate 20% less airplanes today, and we fly over 15% more flight hours than we did a year ago. So it's been a massively transformational couple of years for us in the business.
And your fleet is going to be, what's your fleet plan?
So we're still focused on the CJ3s are just crushing it for us. We took delivery of a bunch of new CJ3s from Textron. They have knocked it out of the park. The Excels are still doing really, really well for us. And the Challenger 350s are just crushing it. The customers love them. They don't break, which is the main thing the customers want. They just want them to show up on time and not have a mechanical or any other issues. And those 3 airplanes are really knocking it out for us. Still struggling with the Sovereign and the 10. They're not as reliable. Their cycles per break is somewhere around 12 maybe on a good day. So they're a lot more challenging.
And when it comes to, you mentioned parts supply, is that getting better?
I think it's getting a little better. A lot of people are taking, I think y'all probably heard about, like Wheels Up is taking their Excels out of business. And so there's a lot of airplanes being parted out, which is sort of helping the ones that have a little lower flight time on it, like our fleet does, that still have a lot of life left, find those parts more rapidly. We haven't had a huge success in finding the parts on the Citation 10 side or the Sovereign side as much. And of course they break so much that you need them all the time.
Do you part out aircraft?
We haven't yet. Most of our airplanes that we bought from historically way back were lower flight time airplanes. We were 4,000, 5,000 hours, and they're getting to that second overhaul where they're 10,000 or 11,000 hours on the Excel in some cases. And so we're starting to explore what's the next logical step for us. I don't think we have anything much higher than that in flight time, so we're not quite there yet. But I think in that third overhaul, it certainly starts to make sense.
It's interesting. We had Bond announced at NBAA, and Bond is outsourcing all maintenance to Bombardier Services. You're trying to do all of the maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, I want to control our destiny and be able to do it at night. I mean, Bombardier does a terrific job, and of course, we're a customer of theirs. I'm very happy with their support as well. And a lot of those programs are easier to get when you buy. How many should you buy? A couple of $1 billion of it.
So you'd rather have for you, it's worth the headache.
I like to control our destiny, and so when you think about it, if you've got 40 customers of airplanes in there and hours of breaks, and you need it tomorrow for the charter, you know what you're going to do with it. And so but we developed our maintenance business initially for us and to control that outcome for us, and it worked really well.
Are there any other areas you'd like to take control?
We're still planning to bring training in-house, and I think that's we got a $30 million grant to build that training facility, and I think we will finally get that thing over the finish line and break ground on it sometime. I've been saying the next 3 to 6 months for the last 2 years, I think. But the money is actually in the account at this point, ready to build the facility. So I think we're getting close to bringing training in-house as well. So we'll have the paint, the interior, the maintenance, and training will all be in-house soon. And
do you want to control charter sales?
Well, we've never approached, the tech side of the business. We certainly have some interest in it. The Volato deal was fairly exciting. They had some really neat tech that they had in their mission control software and their Vaunt software, and so we think we could do some neat things with that. But we're still primarily, at the end of the day, we're a charter club, fractional operators where we want to be.
Take us through the Volato deal.
Trying to see which parts of it I can tell you about. that we've disclosed on it. So we purchased we took them over the operational part of it over last year, which was the Honda jets. Those have done very well. The customers that fly in those really like them. They've been reliable. They've done a nice job for us. We have sold some of those off as the customer base has moved into the CJ3 fleet. And then the idea was all along that we would, they had a lot of things they were trying to get done and eliminating their debt, which they've done a really terrific job of over the last year. And so we had the option to acquire the rest of it. And then they found another deal. Matt's in the room back there, and he's just as creative as it gets, and how he found another option to do something with the public company side that we didn't really need. We're already public, and that's a big enough headache to have one. So I didn't need two of them. But so he made a deal with M2I to make that side of the deal. We made the deal to go ahead and take the asset part of it over. And so we're excited about the tech being there and the mission control that our airplanes are starting to run on, the Vaunt part of it where we'll put our planes fully behind it at this point. And
so Vaunt is the empty leg.
The empty leg part of it. And we're flying about 7,000 hours a month now, so 1,500 roughly of those hours are empty. So as we put the full force of that behind it, the availability that will be in that Vaunt system could explode. And I think that could really make that part of the tech grow rapidly.
And are you in the market to buy someone else?
I think that might qualify as something I'm not allowed to talk about.
I don't think it does. It's a small room.
But plus the SEC is closed, right? There's nobody in nobody at the SEC is working today, so but eventually I think they'll still get paid. I mean, we're strategically interested in acquisitions that might make sense for us, but we also want to maintain the discipline that's working. Our numbers are headed rapidly in the right direction, and again, without giving you the non-public information, it would be really exciting if I could tell you how great Q3 was and how great Q4 is going, but I'm not allowed to do that. I'm also not allowed to tell you if it had gone bad, if you'll do your meeting 10 days later next year, I'll be able to talk a lot more about it. But of course, if it's not going as well as it's going,
you don't come anyway.
May not want to come. Yeah.
Do you long term then, which we can talk about? You've got your base at the moment on, you're very, very strong on this coast.
Yeah.
Do you have plans to, we had on 2 days ago, we had Casey from AirShare talking about how, when they bought the Wheels Up operators, it gave AirShare a nationwide presence.
Today, there's not anywhere in the country we can't touch in about an hour. So the airplanes are, our base is eastern, United States, but there is nothing we can't touch within about an hour of flight time already. They're scattered all over. The fleet is a floating fleet, so we're not locating them in different places for owners. We fully control it, own it, lease it, however we have the airplane in our fleet. So they're all over the country already. So I don't know that we would expand with a base in that area. I could see it making sense to have maintenance on that side of the country for sure. So we can control our destiny in that way as well.
Okay, do we have any questions? Say, at the danger of breaking SEC rules, you're in a happier place this year than you were last year.
I'm in a much happier place this year than I was last year for sure, and excited about giving an earnings report next week.
One of the downsides you've got is there aren't many other listed business aviation companies.
Well, it could be an advantage.
At the danger, I know, I was going to say, at the danger of offending the analysts who cover you, how well understood do you think flyExclusive is?
I actually think they do a decent job. Shockingly, because they don't spend a ton, at least from my perspective, a ton of time on it. I think they do a pretty good job of summarizing where we are in the hours and the flight time, the utilization and the rates, and they can come up with they're not by any means exact, but I think they do a pretty good job.
Okay, someone in the audience is asking, any plans to go international?
The certificate is already worldwide. Of course, we had a bunch of Gulfstreams that were in that non-profitable part of the business that we eliminated. We still have one more left. If anybody wants to buy a G4 SP, it is brand new paint, brand new interiors, absolutely terrific. And we will close it by the end of the year if any of you guys want it. We would love to get rid of that last one. But the Challengers are flying some international stuff. They're doing some of that, and we will expand back into doing that again in the future with newer, hopefully much more reliable airplanes with parts available.
I think we might start taking commission on anything sold on stage during.
If you can sell my Gulfstream, I'm happy to pay a commission. Deal.
How do you plan to further your Caribbean operations? This is the float plane.
Well, we've got a wheeled, what we call a land van, and a seaplane version of the caravan business, and there's just a ton of demand that is flying the airplanes from South Florida. I forget I'm sitting in Miami, over to the Bahamas constantly, and excited about that part of the business. And I've had that airplane for multiple years and didn't have it on the certificate. I said, and I really only used it in June. So I said it'd be a good idea to put that thing to work and actually let it make a little bit of money the rest of the year.
Have you also bought a house in the Caribbean as part of the transaction?
I do not have a house in the Bahamas yet.
Did we all notice he said Bahamas there? And he yet. Any other questions? If not, Jim, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me so much.
Thanks for playing. Okay, if we can now put the Slido poll up, we're going to switch and look at engine programs. We're delighted to have Sean Lynch of Engine Assured Program. And Sean's not coming up here to sell his program. He's coming up here to put forward, I'm not going to say a theory, because it's you've got evidence to put, well, it is a theory. He's going to put forward a theory, and then we're going to prove it. Or Sean is going to prove it, I'm not. And Sean, what is your theory?
Engine programs are great for the business.
It's more than that. Actually, that is right. That is your theory. But actually, specifically, why are they good for the business?
So you hear the statistics, the airplanes sell faster. They're the most likely to sell next in the marketplace. But I thought it'd be interesting to actually look at the data. So we looked at Falcon 900Bs, and every single Falcon 900B that's ever been parted out. And what was ironic about that was that literally every single 900B that was parted out was not on an engine program. And of course, I'm excluding incident-related airplanes. And this is the list of every 900B that's been parted out that was not incident-related. And literally 100% of the airplanes were parted out that were not on an engine program. And if you go to that next slide, one of my favorite examples of this, and I saw some folks from Westar here, there's a big brewery in St. Louis area that had one of the finest flight departments in the world, and 900B serial number 6 was one of their airplanes. No expense spared. Whatever the airplane needed, it got. The only exception on that was they did not have the airplane on an engine program. So that airplane had a 2C check due, it had landing gear due, it needed paint, it needed interior, it needed a Wi-Fi solution, and it needed 3 engine shop visits, CZIs and MPIs. And when you ran the math on doing all that work, it just made more sense for them to part out the airplane, which they did.
And just for the audience, the largest part of by far the largest part of that would be the engines.
The engine program, 100%. The absolute biggest part of that expense would be the engine program. If we go to the next slide, if you look at the impact on the industry for this one airplane, if you assume it flew on average 400 hours per year, I was looking at Conklin and Decker numbers, and it was $3.8 million in total revenue that the industry lost. Fuel, insurance, hangar, you name it. If you do the math on that, it's $36 million in revenue that's been lost since that airplane was parted out. And if you assume that it would have flown 45 years on average for an airplane like that, the industry loses $60 million in revenue. If you'll go to that next slide, so then if you extrapolate and look at these 12 900Bs that were all parted out, there's roughly $480 million in revenue that's lost for the entire industry. You've got Standard Aero, Westar, Duncan, Yingling missing out on multiple paint and interior refurbs. There's Honeywell cockpits not being installed. Brian Burroughs not selling wheels and brakes. Chris Ellis could have brokered the airplane 3 more times. There's management fees. There's obviously a lot of fuel. Half that's fuel. But the entire industry loses when these things get parted out sooner than they should. If you go to that next slide, we're asset managers. You can skip that slide and we'll go to the next one. This is my last favorite example. Another storied flight department, a big tobacco company, had 2 Falcon 2000s, serial number 5 and serial number 7. They were self-accruing. They're a big company. They can afford to write the checks. And I saw Josh Messenger here earlier. He was involved on this transaction. They had, number 1 engine had a catastrophic failure. It's going to cost $3.5 million to fix it. The number 2 engine had a scheduled CZI coming due. It was going to be about $1.5 million to fix that engine. They had $7 million accrued in the account for engines. When the powers that be looked at this particular example, and they had the $7 million sitting in their own house account, which was more than enough to take care of that particular event on that airplane, they chose to part out the airplane. And if you'll go to the next slide there, you said I wasn't going to sell anything. I don't know if that was 100% true. But engine programs are good for the business. I know there's been a tough run here with the supply chain. I have seen that the manufacturers that still manufacture the majority of their parts have done much better in the supply chain crunch. Jim just said it, control your destiny. If you manufacture the parts yourself, you're not relying on another vendor that may also need to get 50,000 CFM 56 blades out that may take priority over other blades. But the other slide I was going to send you was, if you look at G4s, so direct competitor to the 900B. When the G4 first came out, Rolls-Royce Corporate Care wasn't even in place yet. I believe, and feel free to, if you look at the uptake of Falcon 900Bs, I think at their maximum, tell me if I'm wrong, around 85%, almost 90% of that 900B fleet was on an engine program. The Rolls-Royce Tay engines on the G4, I believe they got up to around 50 to 60% uptake on engine programs. So a large percentage of the fleet was not on a program. That's no fault of Rolls-Royce Corporate Care. It's really impressive that the market just didn't feel like they needed to be on an engine program at that time, because the Tay was an awesome engine and people just understood somewhat predictably that the engines would make it to their shop visit and what that expense would be. But if you look at the amount of G4s parted out, again, same example, not on a program, non-incident, 60 G4s were parted out. And the biggest indicator on that is always related to the biggest expense on it, which is the engine. And so it is an eye-opener for the industry, for the brokers, the dealers. You're the asset managers. You're advising these clients. Engine programs are good for the business. You're more likely to sell that airplane again 2, 3 more times if we keep them on program.
So I don't know, I guess many people won't have listened to it, but Ken Reiki was here last year complaining about engine programs, and he did a great pod with last week. And one of the things he says is you should just self-insure. And his argument is by the time you've compounded the money, you'll easily have paid for everything. Your argument suggest you wouldn't agree with that.
You know, when you're looking at a large fleet of airplanes, the economics and dynamics are totally different. The average aircraft, the average operator is a 1-2 airplane flight department. And no one likes these big, huge, massive financial issues. They like expected monthly, predictable expenses. And if I was in a 1-2 airplane flight department, I would be concerned about my job on a daily basis if we were not on an engine program, because the expenses related to a big, expensive, unscheduled failure, or even a scheduled one. What we used to do for $500,000, $700,000 in a shop visit 5 to 6 years ago is now $1.5 million, $1.7 million. So we've had a doubling of expenses in the last 5 to 7 years. When you look at, a fuel control unit, people always think, well, this is what the overhaul is going to cost. This is what the CZI is going to cost. A large percentage of what we spend between shop visits is everything that breaks in between the shop events. The fuel control units used to be $50,000, $60,000, and now they're $119,000 on exchange.
So if you're looking at the fleet of aircraft out there, there's a lot of aircraft out there not on program. There's a lot of types which haven't. So your forecast would be that those ones will probably get parted out first.
Watch the amount of XLs, XLSs, Bravos, Encores that never had a massive uptake in engine programs. They had good, and they had good uptake, but not as high as some of the other fleets of engines. Watch how many of those get parted out in the next few years.
One frustration from customers is that they've paid for a program and then they can't get a rental engine.
Yep, that's been a big one. We have tirelessly worked on this one aspect of our business. We, in 9 years, have never had a Honeywell powered customer go without a rental engine when they needed one, which is something we're quite proud of. But you also have to actively manage that. And if engines go in the shop and sit there for 6 to 10 months, you're eventually going to run out of rental engines. So we have actively managed that in a way that if we know it takes 6 to 8 months to get an LPT-1 disc, 8 to 10 months before that engine event, we're ordering an LPT-1 disc. So we try to get ahead of the delays in the supply chain.
So that's how you do it. The only way to get ahead of the supply chain is to order ahead. There's no other secret.
Absolutely. We have a large inventory of LRUs, the most common fail items we have in stock. And then, of course, we pre-order the parts prior to the shop event so we can get ahead of that. So
how do you, when you're choosing which engines you're going to focus on, how do you pick an engine? You're not looking to do 1-year-old, brand new aircraft on a long-range aircraft.
No, you're exactly right. We have a specific niche. We only focus on older business jet engines. So we just recently added the G550, G5 BR710s, the global engines. We just added the HTF 7000 engines. Those engines have been in service for 20 years, and that's really where we like to be, is we like to focus on the older part of the market where the engine's been in service. That particular model's been in service for at least 20 years.
And if we take your argument, and by the way, everyone we've got a vote on Slido, and you've got 100% people agreeing with you, which surprised me. I think Delray's about to disagree, looking at him voting. If you take your argument, the fact that most aircraft being delivered now are on program, the vast majority, yet you see he's just voted. Would you expect aircraft to have longer economic lives going forward? Because, if 90% of the global fleet is on program, or?
Absolutely. That whole fleet will fly way longer. Those manufacturers and everyone that supports those airplanes will make money off of these airplanes for decades longer, the higher the percentage of the fleet that's on a program.
And on that cheery note, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.